Tatsuka once stood as the world's most powerful supreme magician. But after the war stripped him of his memories and family, he decided to live in disguise, concealing his true strength by posing as a commoner and enrolling at the academy. And astonishingly, in the very first episode, he already found himself entangled with 4 different girls. It was his first day at the Academy of Sorcery. Tatsuka stepped through the grand enchanted gates alongside the other new students. Suddenly, a girl crashed into him and almost fell, but he caught her just in time before she hit the ground. Her cheeks flushed red while her friends burst out laughing behind her. Tatsuka quickly apologized, but the girl snapped back, demanding who would just stand in the middle of the walkway like that. The moment she realized he was a new student, the girls froze. They had already heard whispers about a newcomer who wasn't born into a noble or magical lineage but came from a completely ordinary family. That meant Tatsuka had to be that boy. And within moments, the rumor spread, and nearby students started murmuring about him. Then another boy appeared and introduced himself as Albert. Tatsuka politely offered his name and extended a hand for a handshake, but Albert arrogantly slapped it away, declaring that this academy was for nobles and those of sorcerer bloodlines only. He sneered that commoners like Tatsuka didn't belong there. Tatsuka ignored the insult, which only fueled Albert's anger. As Albert tried to provoke a fight, Tatsuka easily dodged each attack until a red-haired girl suddenly stepped in and stopped him. Albert froze instantly. She was from one of the 3 wealthiest families. With a glare of disdain, he hissed that a commoner would never be accepted and stormed away. The red-haired girl introduced herself as Amelia and gently asked if Tatsuka was all right. He thanked her sincerely, and she congratulated him for being the first commoner ever admitted to the academy, telling him to come to her if he ever needed help. Soon after, the entrance ceremony began. The headmistress of Arnold Academy, Abby Granite, addressed the students with an inspiring speech, reminding them that although they were chosen for their magical ability, they must still train themselves to become the best sorcerers in the world. Then she announced the first-year student representative, and to everyone's surprise, Amelia stepped forward. Her passionate speech about facing hardships with courage earned the crowd's applause. Later, Tatsuka entered his classroom and introduced himself. Some students welcomed him, but others grumbled about how a commoner had even gotten in. Their homeroom teacher, Helena Gray, soon appeared, introducing herself as Professor Gray and asking everyone to sit. Amelia greeted Tatsuka warmly again, shocking the class that someone of her status would speak so kindly to him. As Tatsuka sat, he stared out the window at the city, lost in memories of war, until a piece of chalk flew at him. He caught it between his fingers, only for it to explode in his hand. Professor Gray began her lecture on magician ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and finally the divine, the supreme level that only 7 magicians in history had reached. Among them were the blazing magician, the Academy's headmistress herself, the bewitching magician obsessed with fame, and the warship magician who vanished after the Far East War. Albert scoffed again, asking why a commoner was even there, but Professor Gray sharply reprimanded him, reminding the class that every student earned their place regardless of background. Their first class was Magic Basics, where spellcasting resembled programming and ended with materialization, creating constructs from matter, limited only by the caster's strength. Matter was divided into solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. When a student asked about antimatter code, the professor explained that no one had ever achieved it and that Inworth's dual code theory was far beyond their level. Amelia demonstrated her skills by forming an impressive ice wall, while Tatsuka's attempt fell short, giving Albert another excuse to mock him, saying useless magicians shouldn't exist. Later in the library, Tatsuka ran into Elisa, the same student who had asked about Inworth earlier. She revealed she admired the doctor deeply, and Tatsuka replied that he did too. Delighted, she said it was her first time meeting someone her age who shared that admiration. Tatsuka then noticed her pointed ears and realized she was half-elf. She shyly admitted she hid them out of shame, since people judged her kind, and told Tatsuka he reminded her of a lost companion who once spoke the same way. When Tatsuka returned to his dorm, Ivy was waiting for him, completely unfazed by his commoner background. Later, during outdoor training, he met senior Rebecca Burley and greeted her politely, much to Ivy's shock when she realized Rebecca also came from one of the 3 royal-level families. Amelia belonged to the Ross family, the eldest daughter, known for her honesty and outstanding magical skill. A girl showed up, a twin-tailed blonde Sundara, who bumped into him, scolding that he should have stepped aside, recognizing him as the rumored commoner. And Tatsuka, ever the smooth talker, praised her relentlessly, saying he knew the Cavaliers but not Cleveland, then swiftly complimented her family's beauty, winning her favor instantly. During sword class, she faced off against Albert while others mocked Tatsuka as a frail magician. Yet she easily blocked Albert's strikes. When Albert launched another furious attack, Tatsuka casually stepped in and defeated him with ease. That night, strange noises echoed through the dorm as Tatsuka and Ivy grew closer. As he settled into academy life, Tatsuka considered joining 2 clubs. Ivy warned it would be difficult, but he pulled out a golden card to prove his ability and headed to the Hunter Club, packed with muscular men who explored forests, rivers, and glaciers. They thought he was too scrawny, unaware that beneath his clothes his body was forged from real training. When their leader met him, he was thoroughly impressed. The other members were even more astonished when Tatsuka revealed his Golden Hunter's license. They bowed in respect, and the leader declared him the club's master. Afterward, he visited the Flower and Grass Club, which was filled entirely with girls. But Tatsuka was genuinely intrigued by how plants could bloom even under harsh conditions. And though the club was all girls, it was no problem for him. Senior Tina opposed his joining, assuming Tatsuka was only there because of Rebecca. The girls whispered while Rebecca clapped her hands and left the decision to Tina. If Tina judged him unfit after a test, he'd be rejected. Tatsuka tried to be friendly, but Tina refused, convinced he'd soon expose his true colors. He was led to a rooftop covered in weeds and told to clear them and build a flower bed within a week. Tatsuka removed his coat and got to work. On the first day, he cleared all the weeds. The second day, he loosened the soil. By the third, the flower bed was complete. Rebecca came by with her favorite sandwich, and seeing Tatsuka enjoy it made her happy. He suggested she ask the academy to include it more often, and she noticed his strong physique. Tatsuka explained it came from years of training in the countryside forests. Rebecca, blushing with curiosity, said it was her first time touching real male muscles and found it quite fascinating. Amelia and the others were annoyed at this pig-hoof Tatsuka, already gaining Amelia's attention and now even Rebecca's. A week later, after seeing the flawless result, even the proud Tina admitted Tatsuka passed the test. Soon after, the principal called him for a mission. Imperial spies had infiltrated the kingdom and might even be hiding inside the academy. Tatsuka was asked to keep an eye out and handle it discreetly. On his way, Tatsuka startled twin-tailed Clarice, who had been watching pill bugs. Clarice admitted he was an odd noble, a highborn who loved insects, which left him friendless. But Tatsuka said his uniqueness was admirable, that it was an honor to be his friend. Clarice was touched, though Tatsuka quickly apologized, worried he'd been presumptuous in calling them friends. Later, the teacher announced a survival test in the forest. Everyone wanted to team up with Amelia, but her gaze turned to Tatsuka. Ivy joined without hesitation, saying even if his magic was weak, as a golden hunter he could defeat hundreds. Tatsuka also noticed the lonely Elisa and invited her, which made her smile though she feared she'd be a burden. And of course, Amelia joined too, making the blue-haired boy uneasy. The test's goal was to reach the forest center within a day, collecting stamps at checkpoints. The more stamps, the higher the score. Dangerous monsters lurked within, and asking for help meant instant failure. Before departing, Elisa trembled with fear, but Tatsuka felt nostalgic. He'd roamed mountains and forests countless times before. Amelia suggested positions, the men as the forward, she in the center, and Elisa as rear guard. But Tatsuka preferred to fight freely. Soon they encountered their first monster, and Tatsuka leapt forward, slicing it cleanly in half and earning a stamp. While other teams struggled, Twintail grew ecstatic at seeing insect monsters. Tatsuka's display astonished everyone. Not only his combat power, but also his deep survival knowledge, which he credited to life in the countryside forests. Amelia, however, grew suspicious. Even she found his excuse unbelievable. She realized Tatsuka was no ordinary man. But she herself was unusual too, a daughter of the Ross family fighting alongside commoners, rejecting noble pride and cherishing effort. With friends who treated her as an equal, she felt true happiness. Ivy said it was all thanks to Tatsuka, and her words brought memories of fallen comrades. Compared to the battlefield, this academy felt like paradise, though Ivy wasn't sure she deserved such peace. Seeing her sleeping teammates, she recalled her master's warning to hide her identity as the warship magician unless she ever found true friends. The next day, screams echoed ahead. Tatsuka dashed forward, finding the blue-haired boy crying for help, and saved him with a single strike. Yet once safe, the boy's arrogance returned. He still couldn't stand a commoner like Tatsuka. From the shadows, a schemer revived the monster, now stronger than before. Tatsuka stayed calm but couldn't pierce its shell. Preparing to unleash his hidden strength, he was suddenly aided by his companions combining their magic, giving him an opening. Tatsuka drove his blade deep into the beast's belly, cutting it clean in two. The blue-haired boy was left humiliated, saved by the very commoner he despised. The team gathered all the stamps and reached their goal. But aside from Twintail, the others gave cold looks, convinced Tatsuka had only succeeded thanks to Amelia. Tatsuka understood. Nobles despised seeing him triumph, but the girls reassured him not to care. First place was theirs, no matter what others said. And that was exactly why Amelia loathed the noble hierarchy. Meanwhile, Tatsuka's master was both nervous and eager. Though she had sent him to the academy, she hadn't seen him for 2 months. When he arrived, she hurried to fix her clothes and asked about his life there. Tatsuka raised his right hand, saying it still hadn't fully recovered, and his master concluded it would take at least 5 years. During that time, he must not use that power. But if a dire moment ever came, she told him to decide for himself. After all, he had inherited her legacy as the warship magician. Today, she had summoned him mainly because of disturbing rumors among magic scholars. Normally, she ignored gossip, but anything concerning magic memory was serious. Most researchers focused on magic codes themselves, but her studies centered on the brain, for magic was processed in the mind using code theory before materializing. The part of the brain that stored magic was called magic memory, and understanding it fully could reveal the truth of the world. Yet some researchers sought shortcuts, unwilling to spend years in study. They resorted to cutting open magicians' heads. They had once tried to recruit her, but she knew they had already abandoned their humanity.